What up, my Jedis? We are back for a very special edition of Yen Money, and today is a very impromptu video because I was definitely not planning on doing a video, but it's really about what I predict to be the next super megastar in the next maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and probably the most slept on player, and currently cheap cards are available for this player. And this is probably my prediction, and the only reason I'm doing it is because I started doing research and I was sleeping on him as well, and I started buying a bunch of his cards in the last 24 hours, just swooping up everything on the low. And I'm going to present to you who I think is going to be the next megastar, right next to Zion and Luka. And the person that I think will end up taking that ring is Cam Reddish. So Cam Reddish, I was sleeping on him big time, and I apologize because, man, he's okay. Let's just get, there's no order. I'm going to be all over the place, but simply just look at his highlights and you'll see just talent. All right, he wasn't a top pick in the draft. He wasn't even the top Duke player picked. I mean, we had Zion obviously at number 1. Even DeAndre Hunter on his own team was picked 4th before Cam on the same year. And so if you just simply watch Cam's highlights from his rookie year, and he's only literally played 55 games because obviously the season ended sooner. This guy has everything. He can play D, he can shoot from the perimeter, he can take it to the rack, he can dribble, he can pass, he can throw lobs. I mean, he basically does everything. And with his body frame at 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan, I mean, that's basically playing the 2 and the 3. And then if you want to stretch it out, he can play the 4 if you really wanted to. So just off of just looking at highlights, I mean, you can already tell that he has the potential to be a star. Not everyone has those qualities. I mean, everyone has maybe 60% of that, or 70 or 80%. They might have the shooting skills. They might just have the D. I mean, they don't come like Cam Reddish. And I think the reason why he's being slept on is because his numbers have been terrible. Just doing a little bit of digging. If you look at his stats, he's only doing like 11 or 10 or 11 points, 3 or 4 rebounds, 1 or 2 assists. But he started off, and he even admits, he started off terrible in the first half of the season. So his numbers were terrible, and he had to slowly pick it up in the second half when he started averaging 14 plus, you know, close to 5 rebounds, and he's still only playing like 28 minutes a game. And the biggest reason why he's not getting the opportunity is, 1, he's a rookie, but 2, I kind of look at it like, and I know this is a huge comparison, but this is probably the closest it's going to get. He is in a similar situation that Kobe was in back in '96. If you guys rewind and go back, and when Kobe was drafted, the players on the team were Shaq, a young Shaq, might I add. You had Eddie Jones, who was also an all-star at that time, Nick Van Exel, and Kobe in the mix. Kobe wasn't even starting and coming off the bench and, you know, getting limited playing time for the first couple years under Del Harris. So similar to this situation, Cam is playing with a bunch of young dudes just like the Lakers did. They got John Collins, who's a 20 and 10 beast. So he plays the Shaq role. You got DeAndre Hunter, who basically is like the Eddie Jones because he was drafted ahead of him. He plays the small forward. He's getting more touches, right? And then you got Trae Young, who basically just eats up all the ball time. I mean, that guy who is averaging 29 and 9. I mean, obviously he is the star of the team, especially at the moment, and he's eating up all the minutes, the shots. I mean, for the most part, not all the minutes, but you know what I mean. So here you have Cam Reddish, who wasn't even drafted number 1 on his own team. He's going to be kind of playing in the background until he can establish himself, because he's not going to just walk in and take over Trae's, you know, spot. They don't even play the same position. But here's the thing. The fact that he's stuck behind everybody he's not getting noticed by anybody, including myself. Like, I didn't even look into Cam Reddish until, you know, obviously I'm just trying to find sleepers. And this guy just has, unlike all the other players that I've been looking at recently, which is Ayton and Jaren Jackson, this guy has the it factor. And what do I mean by the it factor? Kind of, he can do everything, but then he also has like the swag and the looks and like the game set that's built for the masses. You know what I mean? Like Jaren Jackson and DeAndre Ayton, those guys are going to be all-stars in the next 2 to 3 years, like no doubt. I mean, they're pretty much going to dominate in their respective position, and they're just going to end up being all-stars. I mean, they're just naturally gifted. But the difference when you look at those guys is, I mean, it takes certain people to like power forwards and centers. I mean, let's be honest. Like, no one, I mean, look at all the centers. I mean, no one tries to emulate centers when you're on the basketball court. You know what I mean? I mean, even look at, let's first talk about, look at like Roy Hibbert. I mean, I don't know the last person when he was an all-star that wanted to be like Roy Hibbert. And speaking of the Pacers, Cam is basically a replica of Paul George. But not only did he do terrible on his rookie year, his stats are still better than Paul George's rookie year. And he, in my opinion right now, is almost as close to as skilled as Paul George is now. Now, Paul George, to be honest with you, was my sleeper. Even though it took a few years for me to... Okay, do you remember that game where LeBron and Paul George were going heads up, and George just popped a shot off of, like, I think it was like a corner three, and then LeBron just looked at him and gave him a dab? At that time, that was the moment where I was like, oh, Paul George is the next it factor. He has the looks, he has the swag, he has the game that transcends just stats. It goes to what people want to emulate on the court. And that was what Paul George was for me 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But now, for someone in his rookie season to give me the green light, like, oh, this is the dude. And this is the guy that's basically like a Paul George. I mean, look at him. He basically plays just like Paul George. When you're watching him from up top, he looks like Paul George. I mean, his game is built 90% like Paul George. But the fact that he's that good now, and he's not even getting any real opportunity. So, at the end of the day, I think in the next... Okay, and here's another thing. I just saw that the 2019 rookie class did a survey to see who would be the most likely, the best player, I guess, in that entire draft. And the rookies did all the voting. And 19% said it would be Cam. Only 5% said it would be Zion. So if your own peers are saying that it's not even Zion that's going to be the superstar and it's going to be Cam in the next few years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, which I don't even think it's going to take that long, then that says a lot. And so I think based on situation, he's not going to get, even next year, he's probably not going to get the amount of touches that he should be getting, which is going to limit his stats and his visibility. But I guarantee you in the next year, if he's still on the Hawks, it's going to happen. And there's already talk that someone's going to get traded because Bradley Beal might come to the Hawks, or somebody's going to come to the Hawks. And obviously, you know, Cam and Hunter both playing the small forward spot, and obviously Cam can play the 2 guard as well. Someone's going to go. It's going to be a draft pick, maybe either Hunter or Cam. If Cam gets traded and he becomes the top dog on the next team, whether it be the Wizards or whoever, I'm telling you right now, his cards are going to shoot it up. So let's talk about his card value right now. With all this talk about how good Cam's going to possibly be, and the fact that he's one of the rare players that has the it factor. And look, I already know that Zion and Luka, they're already set to be superstars. Even Trey, they're already set. But this is like the biggest sleeper of the last 2 to 3 years. I think he's going to be possible MVP. Hopefully he gets a championship. Like, this is how big I think he's going to get in the next 3 to 7 years. I mean, I think just the fact that he does everything. Like I said, he does everything. He plays solid D. He was the best defender on Duke. He plays, I mean, any shooting guard, small forward, you want him to shoot outside, long range, even like a foot or two behind the 3. He takes it to the rack. And the biggest thing is, like, he has that finesse, that when it comes back to the it factor, like when some people dunk the ball, it just looks like art. And Cam has that body type and the finesse that makes it look good. You know what I mean? Like no one wants to see. I mean, aside from Zion, who's like the rare beast, no one really wants to see centers dunking. It's not fun. You know what I mean? It just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing like a guard or like a small forward does. All right, so let me go back to the cards and get off of just the non-tangible. Let's talk about the tangible, which is the cards. Now, just in the last 24, maybe 48 hours is when I started buying a bunch of his cards. I literally went and bought about 30 cards just in the last day. I picked up his optic variants and his prism base and hollow rookies. His optic, let's say like the purples and the optic pinks are going for about 12 to 13 bucks. The optic purples are only going for like 17 to 20 bucks. The base prisms are going for about 11 to 14 bucks. The prism variants, like the cracked ice, are going for 25 to 30 bucks. Now let's put into perspective those prices versus the same people in his class. So he's a 2019 draft pick. He's in the same year as John Morant and Zion. And keep in mind, people have already, just from what I hear on YouTube, people are already saying that, Cam was supposed to be the long-term best player, even over Ja and possibly over Zion. So now let's look at the prices. Let's just look at the base prices. The base price on a Zion Prism rookie, we already know, is about at the low 180, 185, sometimes over 200, especially on the weekends. $200 for the low. And you look at the base Prism Ja Morant's, you're looking at about $100, right? So Ja is about half of Zion. Now when you look at Cam, I just picked up the last one I bought on his Prism base was $11 shipped. So he's 10 times cheaper than Ja Morant, 20 times cheaper than Zion. And when he gets his time to shine, he could possibly be as good or better. I mean, a lot of people like Ja because he does everything, as well as like that finesse. Like he could take it to the rack like Westbrook and dunk. People love that. I'm telling you, watch Cam's dunks. Watch the way his footwork is. He has the same reasons why you like Ja Morant is going to be close to the same reasons why you like Cam. And when he gets that time to shine above all his, teammates, I mean, his cards are going to go from that $11 base price immediately to where Ja Morant is like, bam, $60. Like, it's going to go 5x right when right when people barely start feeling it. It's going to go 5x. It's going to go 10x if he just reaches what his potential should be in the next 2 to 3 years. And who knows? Like I said, I'm comparing the 2019 draft picks. We already know that Zion's card is going to be like $500 in 2 to 3 years at least. Minimum. This is just for the base. All right? If Cam just becomes half of what Zion could be, which I think he's going to be like 75 to 80% in the next 2 to 3 years because Zion just has way too much hype. If Cam can just get to half, that means that $500 Zion card in 2 to 3 years means half of that, which is Cam, is $250. You just 25x your money in 2 to 3 years. So at this point, this is like a win-win-win game because what's the worst case scenario? He's slower than expected, and his base card becomes $30, and like a 2019 rookie in 2022, 3 years later becomes a $30 card. What? You just tripled your money. You know what I mean? Worst case scenario, you triple your money because of time and the increase in value of the card because it's an older card, right? Worst case scenario, it's a $30 card 2 years from now. Worst case, right? My opinion is the gap between Ja and Zion, it's going to be those three dudes. Like, that's it. It's going to be those three dudes. This guy is legit. I'm already at 15 minutes talking about some dude that I slept on in the last 3 months, and I'm glad I figured it out. I think this guy is the next super mega star when he gets the opportunity. I'm telling you, he does it all. I mean, the defense, the it factor, the offense. He can pass. He can. I mean, just the fact that it just looks good when he dunks. So, anyways, I probably could have went on another 5 minutes. I mean, this is a ridiculously long YouTube to talk about one dude, but hopefully I look back at this 5 years from now and all the cars that I'm buying in the next couple days, even the next couple years, 20, 30x, 40x. Just remember, his Prism base right now is $11. Zion's is selling for close to $200 at the low. Jaws is at $100. They're from the same class, and he's probably going to be the best one out of them in the next few years. So hopefully that little bit of information helped you realize that Cam is a huge sleeper, and based on the value of his cards, there is no doubt I'm 100% right at this moment in time. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week. I hope I didn't bore you, but please, it's all about Cam Reddish for the next 5 to 10 years. Until then, I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.